It means resilience. It means that I can come from victimhood to victorious. My message is a humanitarian message because everyone comes from a family. So to repair the Black family is to repair humanity because we are a part of humanity.
This is the Unbreakable Stories podcast, where we share stories of people just like you who have overcome adversity, struggles, hardship, and the setbacks in life on your way to achieving success. It is through these unbreakable stories that will motivate, inspire, encourage, and empower you to believe if it's possible for someone else, it is possible for you. And now, here is your host for this episode of Unbreakable Stories, Terry Thompson. Today's guest is Sister Nayyirah Muhammad. Sister Nayyirah is a transformational life coach, speaker, international teacher, and spiritual advisor on a mission to repair the Black family and humanity. She specializes in releasing generational trauma patterns and stories, working with many faith-based organizations, youth groups, community leaders, volunteers, and schools around the world to achieve a total life transformation. Welcome to the show, Sister Nayyirah.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here. This is absolutely wonderful, and I'm excited.
I love it 100%. And you recently shared your Unbreakable story, and I'm not even going to sugarcoat this. It brought tears to my eyes. I was crying. I was emotional when I heard your story, and it really connected with me on a really deep level, and I can resonate and truly relate to everything that you said. Here's the thing, here at Unbreakable Stories, you've heard me say this many, many times. We always share stories, and your story matters. It is meant to motivate, inspire, encourage, and empower others that if it's possible for you, it's also possible for them. So here's what I want to know, in your own words, what does it mean for you to be unbreakable?
It means resilience. It means that I can come from victimhood to victorious, that no matter what, being unbreakable means that you have sustainability, that you can maneuver through any situation, any life circumstances, and everything that happens in your life, it shapes you. It doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
I love that. Everything happens for you. And I truly believe that everything within life happens for a reason. And so many people, they have that victim mentality. They play this role of, oh, woe is me, woe is me. This happened to me, that happened to me. And I truly believe that if you want to change your life, you change your mindset. And it all begins right there within your mind. That right there is the strongest muscle that you have. And we're going to dive into that. But here's what I want to get to. I really want to dive deep into this quote that you have, because you have a truly, and I mean truly powerful quote. To repair the Black family is to repair humanity. See, here's the deal. There is a tremendous stigma around the future of humanity. A lot of people are really kind of playing into, oh, here's the end of days, the end of the world, all this and all that. But the big question is if you want to change the future of humanity, I really want to know, where does that really begin? Where does that begin for you?
Yeah, thanks, Terry. So I truly believe to repair the Black family is to repair self first. My message is a humanitarian message because everyone comes from a family, and anyone can learn from my message. My target market is Black people because I'm a Black woman. However, all principles are universal. The message is universal. So to repair the Black family is to repair humanity because we are a part of humanity. And so as a Black woman, coming up through the struggles, understanding that in every dispensation of time, there was somebody that spoke up to the culture and for the culture to be able to change the culture and further it along. Because we have been in victimhood, it's now time to be victorious. And each stage of development is going to take a voice that's willing to speak to the culture, for the culture, on behalf of the culture.
I love it. And your voice is powerful, by the way. I just want to add to that. And here's one of the things that I tell everybody. You have a voice, and that voice is powerful. And when you speak up, you can speak out. You've heard me say this within
Yeah.
Clubhouse. When you speak up, you can speak out. So what really makes your voice powerful? Because I really feel that there's more to your story. And I know you shared some of that within your Unbreakable story, but what makes your voice powerful to speak up?
Because it's love and pain. It
Mm.
exists in the same space, right? There are so many painful experiences that I've had in my life, but it's so much more love. And so when I lean into that love makes me want to speak up, to eradicate the pain within myself and to help to eradicate the pain within others. So what makes me so powerful is because I go to the depth of love. You know, you have, for me, I had to love myself more than the conditions that I came from, more than the people that hated me or hated the circumstances or anything. So when you love yourself and you want good for yourself, as a humanitarian, you want good for others. So that's what I believe makes me so powerful, because I'm willing to step in power and help others come from pain to power.
I love that. And it just like Evan Carmichael says, who's my mentor and I work directly with him, he says that your purpose comes from your pain. And when you
Yes.
truly experience that painful past, you are able to just dive deep into that. And I truly believe that so many people around the world really only go skin deep. They really only go in that superficial layer. But when you're willing to dive really deep into the things that really cause deep pain, you will discover a whole new level and layer of yourself. So when you dive deep, how do you bring that to the front in order to motivate, inspire, encourage, and empower others? How do you do that?
So for me, I dive deep in willing to confront, coming face to face with my trauma, right? And being willing to experience it, re-experience it, and then make a new powerful decision.
Mm.
Yes, things happen and I made decisions based upon circumstances of the past. I'm going to face that. And then I'm going to own up and take responsibility so that I can respond with ability. And so, therefore, in order to be able to move beyond that pain, you got to sit with that. You got to look at it, but you don't stay in it. You make a new powerful decision. And that has been my freedom. Like, that's every level of freedom that I get to is because of my ability to shift into another mindset, shift from pain to purpose, pain to passion, right? And knowing that without a shadow of a doubt, I'm willing to experience, to re-experience, I'm willing to learn, to unlearn, you see? So it's positioning yourself with your pain to be able to experience passion and purpose on a new level every single day.
Here's what I love. I love that you said taking ownership, because so many people are trying to place blame outside of themselves on so many different things, whether it's situation, whether it's circumstance, whether it's other people. Oh, my background. Oh, my generation, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, how do you really shift someone's mind? And here's the deal. You know, when I look around, there's just a lot of nonsense. There truly is. There's a lot of nonsense that's happening out in the world, and so many people are trying to place that blame. And I truly believe that it comes down to leadership. So when you said take ownership, I believe that that has a lot to do with leadership as well too. And I believe that is really lacking out there within the world. So how do you take ownership? How do you stop placing blame on others and just, you know what, I can make the change and it starts with me? How do you do that?
Because I've come to realize people don't care about how much you know. They
Mm,
want to know how much you care. And
yeah.
I care enough about myself. Like, people look at you, right? And say, okay, look, she cares about herself.
Yes.
Because if whether you know where I come from or not, I'm not afraid to be transparent. I'm not afraid to be vulnerable to say, yes, I did live in the victim mindset. I did, right? But I decided that though those things happened, there was always divine order. There was always divine dictate. And I'm looking for the divinity to be able to change the situation. So how do I change people's mindsets? I become a living example, a living sacrifice. And I talk about it from the state of victoriousness. I'm going to take you deep into my pain, but I'm going to bring you out with real life situations, real life, like, wow, you went through this? Because when people look at me, they don't think that I've gone through the struggle. They think I fell out of heaven. No, I come from hell, right? Which is a condition of mine. Yeah. I've come from confusion. I've come from chaos, but daily I work to establish heaven, which is peace.
I love that. And there's an old quote: if you're going through hell, keep going. If you're going through hell, keep going. And and I can relate to that. And here's the reason why, because I have a really strong military background, and I could truly tell you that I've been through a few things that a lot of other people have not been through. But I've also been through some of the things that you've been through as well, too. I remember growing up in South Texas, where, you know, there were a lot of things that were looked at a little bit differently within that area. You know, and I'm talking about, you know, the difference between whites, the difference between blacks and Mexicans, and how certain people lived on certain sides of the tracks and certain people rode different types of buses and this, that, and the other. I truly grew up in an area like that. But you know what? Just because I grew up in an area like that, it doesn't mean that I had to stay in that area. I looked at it differently. And even though that was happening, it was going around me, I really had to make a choice, because I grew up in a multicultural family, a multi-diverse family. My family is multicultural, multi-diverse. We have all different types of races, religions, backgrounds within my family. And I truly believe that's what has shaped who I am today. And you talk about within your Unbreakable story, all the things that shaped you and made you the person that you are today. And when you're looking around and you see so many people that try to limit their mindset, how do you change that?
Well, let me say this. One of my sheroes is Harriet Tubman. And she said, you can see the quote back there and her right there. She said that reportedly, I freed thousands of slaves, and I could have freed thousands more if only they knew that they were slaves. The slavery is not here with bondages and chains. It's the chains of our minds, the limiting the beliefs, the doubt, the grief, the shame, the blame, not taking responsibility. That's the slavery. We're in bondage to our own minds. So how do I shift people? It's like, no, you are free now. You're free to make a new decision. You're free to think for yourself. You don't have to be in the victimhood of your family. My father, and I love him, Terry, he's gone. He's been gone since 2001. But my father was addicted to drugs. My father was addicted to medication. He was addicted to crack. He was addicted to alcohol. I grew up in a home with domestic violence, but I love my father because I know that was his condition. I could have very well said, but because of this and this and that and that, and I lived in that, but I decided, okay, who's going to change the family trauma? Who's going to change the family drama? Who's going to change the pattern? Who's going to change the limiting beliefs? I just got off the phone with my mother, and I told my mother, I am that child that you gave birth to that's willing to be a living sacrifice to say we don't have to stay in the conditions, passed down mindsets. So how do I get people to change? I help them and point them to a direction where they can change their minds through, guess what? Self-development, self-improvement, personal development. You got to get in alignment with the possibilities and not the insecurities.
What causes people to be insecure?
Failure, failure of others, failures of self, right? What you've seen other people, that's my viewpoint. What you've seen other people go through, what you've been through, what you've done to yourself, what you've seen other people do to themselves, lack of resources. I mean, we can name things and things and things, but it's because for me, I see that exposure environment. But if you just look at it and say, how can I bring calm into my own beingness, into my own mind? Then that builds more security by building on small successes.
I love that. You know, it's been said that during the storm, you must be the calm during the storm. And I believe that. I truly believe that. And you definitely sound like that you are a very powerful person that can be that calm during the chaos. And people will lean on you. And I feel that it does begin with that one person. And, you know, I was reading something about a generational curse. And I've heard that, and I'm kind of at odds with that word. I really am, generational curse, because, I really believe that there's always been some type of opportunity. And you hit the nail on the head with some things with taking ownership, taking leadership, taking advantage of those opportunities. And how do you break, I mean, if there is such a thing as a generational curse, how do you break that?
Well, Terry, I'm glad you said that. And this is a very true sentiment for me. I never believed in generational curses.
Mm,
I follow divine dictate. I believe in a higher power. I believe that God allowed things to happen. I believe that he causes things to happen, but I don't believe that we are a cursed people. I believe that mindsets and patterns and I say traumas and dramas are passed down through the family. Generational cycles are passed down through the family, generational hurt, right? All of these generational things, but I never believed in curses.
mhm,
So, with that being said, I truly believe, how do you break it? You got to be willing to be a student.
mm,
You got to be willing to look back at your family, see what has happened in the family, and be willing to be the key of change. You
mhm,
got to study the family, and somebody has to have the courage. Somebody has to have the courage to say, you know what? Yes, alcoholism does reside in my family, but how do we stop alcoholism? Right?
mhm.
Molestation does exist in my family, but how do we stop it? And then you got to be like a scientist. You got to go in and find the right prescription. And guess where you start to practice that? Self,
Mhm.
because all of those memories and that stuff is in you, and you can change your DNA cycle by changing your mind. Epigenetics, being able to reverse from a cellular level by feeding your mind the right things and changing the circumstance, which means changing the
Mhm.
environment of your mind will change the environment externally. That's my personal viewpoint and experience.
Mhm. Do you believe that environment has a lot to do with culture?
Absolutely. I believe that environment is stronger than heredity.
Mm, okay. Because
Because
I've, yeah, go ahead.
because I'm sorry, you could raise a child up with so many gifts, morals, values, and everything, but put them out there in the jungle. And if they don't have enough within them to sustain the jungle, they're going to become the jungle.
Mm. It's like a
It's
paradigm
environment.
shift. It's like a
Exactly.
paradigm. I love it. I used to ask this really important question, and it goes something like this. I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly how I phrased it. But it was like, if you take an inner city kid and put them in the country, and vice versa, and take a country kid and put them in the inner city, how are they going to act? And if you found yourself in that particular situation, either or, vice versa, how do you think that person would act?
I believe that they can adapt to the environment.
Mm.
It's like science. How do you domesticate a lion?
Mm.
You understand? You
Hmm.
take him out of the environment, you put him in a less aggressive environment, and he becomes less aggressive.
Hmm.
So I believe that, that and change of environment doesn't have to be permanent, but temporary
Hmm.
to produce change. It's all about what type of effect are you trying to create. So yes, my father grew up, he grew up in the country. He was from Georgia. And this was a true saying. He would say, you could take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. Right. So though he was from the country, he became a city boy, but he did country things.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
I love it.
So
I
yeah.
relate to that because I mean I've traveled the world my entire life. I've never really had one place that I could call home because I mean if you know anything about my story, you knew that I grew up in a military family. So I've
Mhm.
traveled the world, and I've always believed that I'm multicultural, multi-diverse because of all of the different environments and places that I've been. So I've always viewed things from a lens of we're all the same, because no matter where you are, there you are. And I never looked at it anything differently, even though all of the things were going on around me. So for me, I've built that resilient mindset. I've built that diverse mindset. And I truly believe that mindset is the most important muscle to build if you want to change yourself. And it all begins with yourself. And sometimes it's a struggle to put that off onto other people. It truly is, because people I believe they have to want to change in order to change. What are your thoughts about that?
I truly believe that you're right. And I believe that people that have had the exposure of universality become humanitarians,
Mm,
right? And but it takes a universal viewpoint to become a humanitarian. That's my viewpoint. And I believe that your last question, if you can repeat that last question again, uh, what do I believe as far as changing the mindsets?
mhm,
Absolutely. I believe that in order to change mindsets, desire feeds the will.
mm,
That's what's going to wake people up, is increasing their desire to reach for change.
mhm.
If you are accustomed and you're used to the same old thing, the same old behaviors, the same old, I look over here, this is happening. I look over there, that's happening. I look right here, this is happening. It's the same old, and no exposure, then you can't reach for something that's outside of yourself, that's higher than yourself, if you doesn't have to get exposure. Now, environment also can be reading a book. You could travel in a book, right? Reading, looking at somebody else, looking at your unbreakable story, listening to Clubhouse, all your mind has the ability to travel. And this is how I truly believe that one can become a product of change by changing the environment of their minds. And the state that you have attained is a humanitarian level because of the different types of exposure. But most of us, Terry, we're unconscious.
Mhm.
We're not consciously aware on how to become unconscious. It takes a teacher. That's why the old saying says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
I love that. And that reminds me of doing things with intention. There's
Yeah.
so many people that are just mindlessly going about their day each and every day. But me, I love to do things with intention because a lot of the things that I do them with intention. What is my intent? What is the desired result? And I want to touch on wants, needs, and desires because I believe that right there is important as well too. And I believe that there's a difference between those wants, those needs, and the desires. But how do you tie wants, needs, and desires into taking intentional action?
Well, I always believe in looking at what's the end result, the valuable final product. What
Mhm,
do you want to happen as a result of setting intention, desires, and wants,
mhm,
right? If your intentions is higher than it serves a greater purpose than yourself, it's going to create more desire. It's going to create more wants because you are in service to humanity. If you want to, what Jesus says, the best among you is the one that serves you,
mhm.
right? So I believe that if you set intention, it's going to increase your desires and your wants. But my situation, the way I look at how do I tie that all, what's the purpose?
Mhm.
It's your why. It's your why. Like, what is your why for doing X, Y, and Z? Like you, unbreakable stories. How many people are you freeing? It's your why.
Mm,
So that's what I say. I always get people to look back. What's your why? Why are you doing this?
mhm.
Why do you want this? And that why will, if it's greater than themselves, right? It's going to be intentional. You're going to be intentional because you know you're on a mission
Mhm.
to save yourself and others or create for yourself and others.
I
It's the
love
why.
it. I love it. And when you see others take that intentional action, I know for myself as a leader, I truly enjoy seeing other people take action. I was like, you know what? I did that. I had a part in that. I love that. So when you're coaching, teaching, training, mentoring, leading other people towards success, and everybody's journey is different. Everybody has a different action, a different intention, a different thing that they're trying to do within their life or their business. When you see someone take that action, doesn't that kind of make you feel good inside? How does
Yes.
that make you feel?
It's rewarding.
Yeah.
It's rewarding because to me, I feel like I've become a vessel,
Hmm.
right? To give that person a way out, a key to unlock something that has been buried in them. It was always there,
Hmm.
but I help that person to shift, to be able to look, to be able to observe, to be able to be, do, and have, take action, because of something that I said, or just even to know that a person know that somebody would take time and show care it's rewarding.
I love it. 100. And I always celebrate those victories. You know, so many people are just so selfish. And I've experienced this as well too. I've experienced leaders that really did not celebrate others very well and took all that credit in. Yes, I did that. That was all
Mhm.
me. And I was like, well, no, it really wasn't you, because at the end of the day, that person still had to take that action. So,
Exactly.
so when you see, uh, you know, and I truly believe that we have a definitive lack of leadership out there within the world. I think that we've shifted from leadership to a world of likership. And I had a great episode with someone the other day where I was talking about the difference between leadership and likership. So when you hear me say leadership and likership, what comes to mind?
Well, a leader to me is a leader is one who would take someone in a space or a place where they've never gone before and will not go if they did not have that leadership in their life. Likership is really is coming from a self base. You know, you want people to like you versus you leading them. You know,
Mhm.
so it's positioning. You know, okay, let me get people to like me versus let me lead the flock, being a good shepherd. You know, so I truly believe leadership is going to take someone to a higher state of existence, a higher awareness, a higher knowingness, a higher doingness, and a higher happiness.
I love it. I believe that social media has a lot to do with this whole likership economy that is about. And, you know, you have to shift between that leadership, you know, being a leader, being an authority, having influence, having impact on others. And that's the reason why I said leadership versus likership, because I truly believe that a lot of people are so focused on, well, I'm liked, people like me, versus leading. And I strongly believe we really need a lot more leadership. So I'm truly grateful that you are a leader. You talk about leadership, you're leading others through your example. And I call it be, know, and do. When you be,
Mm.
when you be, know, and do the example, people will take their version of action, what it is that they believe is right for them. So if you're giving tips, tools, techniques in order to be a better leader, a better person, whatever label we want to put on that, what are some good tips or some techniques to be a better leader?
Well, I truly believe that you got to validate the good to get more good. Be
Mhm.
willing to validate those who you are leading. Be willing to speak to the hard truths, right? Because we have to be willing to look at things and see where change is necessary and is needed. So as a leader, you got to be willing to step in. You got to be willing to step in the fire, right? You got to be willing to be, show a purification process. So people want to follow and go through that same process to become unbreakable, right? You got to be that type of person that, hey, you're willing to take somebody by the hand and lead them
Mhm.
to higher grounds. Leadership is going to take a measure of sacrificing of self to be able to position other people to higher grounds. Leadership is service.
Mm.
Who are you willing to serve? What does that look like in today's time? Who are you willing to impact for change?
I
So
love
that's
it.
what I believe. So likership, if you're trying to get people to look at you, that can happen too. That's why you're looking for the likes on your following. Who like my page? But no, I have people that may have never liked my page, but I'm helping to change their lives. That's leadership.
I love it. One person at a time. Each one reach one, each one teach one. And you are definitely making a difference out there within the world with the things that you're doing. So I have to ask you, what is the most challenging problem that you ever had to solve as a leader? And how did you solve it?
One of the most challenging things as being a leader is not being able to help those who are close around me to the desire that I know that I'm out here helping everyone else, but it's hard when I look around certain members of my family and I don't have that same level of effect.
Mm,
That's very hard in being a leader, you know? But how do I overcome it? I just keep being love. I
mm,
just keep showing that the assignment to help lead and guide people to better grounds. And, I deal with the family. I help people save their families. I help people. And so I just keep doing what I know is a divine assignment. It's not personal, it's not me. I am the vessel, but I know it's divine. So how do I overcome when I look around and see certain members of my family? I just keep being a light, letting my light shine for the good of humanity. So that's one of the most challenging things as a leader, me being a leader, is not being able to help some of the people that's very close to me that I desire to help. It becomes very painful, but I just keep standing in truth.
I can relate to that because, I have friends and family that, quite frankly, I will never be able to change because they have to want to change first and foremost. And I know who I am. I know how strong I can be. And I know the knowledge, the skills, the experience that I bring to the table. But there are just some people out there that, just they cannot be helped. And I'm going to say something here, very kind of bluntly, you just can't help people who are stuck on stupid. Quite frankly.
I'm with you on that.
Quite frankly, you just can't help people that are stuck on stupid. And I say that with a lot of love. I really do.
Yep.
And I've tried to reach out and I've tried to help friends. I've tried to help family members. And I'm like, dude, it's right there. Why are you not doing this? And they're just sitting back, procrastinating, not taking action, not taking ownership, not leading themselves. But yet they keep reaching out. And it makes me wonder. It's like, well, you want help. I'm giving it to you. You don't want to take the advice. And there's times where I want to question why. And, it's one of those things that maybe I won't ever get that answer. So when you give all that you can, when you give that love, when you give that advice, when you give that help, and you don't receive that back, how does that make you feel? Because I know how that makes me feel.
It hurts. I have to be real with myself. One of the things that I do is I acknowledge my own pain. Right? And I get very clear on how I feel. But then I made the decision to change that feeling because life is about creating the proper emotions. So good, you have to acknowledge it or else it's suppressed. So I acknowledge, well, gosh, that really hurts, right? And then I looked at it for what it is. That's one of my sayings. It is what it is. And then guess what, Terry? I keep moving. I have to stay on the mission, on the assignment, and that is to help repair the Black family, which is to repair humanity. I know that I am doing a humanitarian work. So you got to stay in your knowingness. You have to stay in your why. Stay on your purpose. See, the thing, Terry, is I know my purpose in life. Many people don't know their purpose in life. And when you know your purpose in life, you stand in your purpose regardless to whom or what. Your heart gonna be broken. That's a part of the sacrifice. You're gonna not be able to help certain people. That's a part of the sacrifice. But are you willing to continue to do your purpose? And I know my purpose. So I say this to answer your question directly. Heck yeah, it hurts. But I get very clear on my feelings and I decide to move to a more powerful state than a primal state.
I love that because I know for me, it does get emotional. It truly does, especially when you're trying to help someone, you're trying to get, but I try not to let that hold me back because I know what I'm capable of. And it's like, I want to give. And if you're not willing to receive, I'm not going to give up on you. Just because you give, it doesn't mean you don't give up. And I'm going to keep trying. But man, I'm telling you, certain conversations just get different. They really do. And I think that if you really want to truly help someone, you must be willing to have different conversations with different people because different people do different things differently. Different people interpret different things differently. Different people see different things differently. And you must be able to relate to that. So I truly believe that it always comes down to knowledge, skills, and experience. And that experience is what sets everybody apart. So when you see somebody that just, they got some knowledge, they got some skills, they don't quite have the experience. Do you believe that you can, I guess, put that experience into someone, or do they have to have that experience for themselves?
I believe that life is all about lessons and experience. And I
Mm,
believe that people can learn from your experience or and learn from your lessons. But some people, they just want their own experience. And that's where, for me, I ask myself, what am I willing to allow to happen in this situation?
mm,
And grant people beingness, grant them the ability to be themselves. So I truly believe that, yes, I want people to learn through some of my experience, but I'm also willing to allow you to have your own experience from the space of love. I believe in holding space for people. I'm just going to hold this space and allow you to experience what you need to experience. And I will keep showing you love. And one of the things, Terry, guess what? That what you just described, that happens with my children.
mm,
Just hold space for them.
mhm.
Allow them to have the experience of life while I keep guiding, I keep teaching, and I keep training. But I also have to do this: let go and let God.
I love that. I absolutely love it because I have two kids myself too. And, you know, I remember growing up, my dad, he had a lot of colorful things to say to me when I was growing up. And, you know, it was one of those things. And it was like, oh, go ahead and make that mistake. And, you know, and that's one of the things that I do tell my kids. And I do that with love. I'm like, okay, they're a tough guy. Go ahead and do that and see what happens. And, you know, and it kind of goes back to that, you know, people are kind of stuck and they don't want to listen. They want to just try things out for themselves. And I truly believe, okay, go ahead and try that out, experience your experience, and then gain that knowledge and that skill on your own. And I believe there is some power within that as well too. So
Absolutely. We're building them with the power of choice.
yeah, I love that because there's a lot of people that may not have a choice. They may not have a choice. And when you give people a choice, and that's the first time they've ever experienced that choice, that's empowering for some, but it's also, you know, it's also, I want to use the right word here. It's unbelievable to others because, oh, I have a choice.
Exactly.
And they may not have experienced that. So for people who may not have experienced a choice, and then they're given a choice, I believe it's empowering, but it can be confusing as well too. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, because I am that child that didn't have choices, or at least I felt that I didn't have choices. My mother controlled everything. She
Mhm.
controlled the way we think. I wanted to move out of town and I was 30 something years old and I was still calling my mom, asking her what to do. I never felt like I had the power to make a choice. When you're told what to do on everything,
Mhm.
when it's time for you to make a decision, you don't know how to make a decision because you may have not, like you said, ever had that power to choose. So
Mhm.
when I learned how to make choices, I learned how to make decisions. And it can be very fearful. You can become very afraid,
Mhm.
but that's where you break a limiting belief.
Mhm.
We have to learn how to make choices. So in parenting, we have to, at a very young age with our children, we got to let them have the power of choice. You can do this or you can do that, but give them the ability to make a decision, to choose. So when they get into that adulthood, they know how to make a choice.
Mhm.
So I agree with you. No, most people don't realize that you truly can choose because it depends on how many choices you was allowed in your upbringing.
Mm. I love that. And that right there builds values, I believe. And everything begins in the home. You know, and I grew up in a very tough home. I grew up in multiple homes. My mom was married 4 times, my dad was married twice, and I traveled around the world. So I got to see a wide variety of different things. And oh my goodness, you know, so many parents want to be that perfect parent. And here's the thing, I truly believe that everything begins right there within the home. The values, those are built within the home. The beliefs, those are built within the home. Those are created within the home. And I see parents that really kind of hold their children back in a sense, but I also see a lot of parents that build their kids up in another sense. So, what are your thoughts on holding kids back, building kids up? Because I believe that we're in an age of confusion here to where parents want to be the perfect parent, but yet we're still trying to find that balance. And between the two, what are your thoughts on that?
I truly believe that you have to study your children.
Mm.
You have to know I have 5.
Mhm.
Each child is not of the same. So you have the family structure, goals, and morals, but then you have the individual.
Mhm.
And you have to know the love language of each child to create balance.
Mhm.
So I believe that some children, they may need a little bit more boundaries until
Mhm.
they can get to that point of uh, reason, knowing how to reason within themselves. I believe children need guidance. I believe children need structure and some forms of discipline, but I also believe that you also have to allow them to be.
Mm.
So it's about studying the child because they're humans, they're human beings, right? No matter how old they are. I have grandchildren, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. I let them make their decisions,
Mhm.
right? But I also know that each one of them are different. You got to know the difference of a person. That's why you can't handle all people the same. You
Right.
got to be able to speak the love language. That's what's going to bring about transformation. You and I don't know each other, but we have an affinity for one another because we've found each other's love language to the degree that it makes us human.
Mhm.
And that's how I believe, even in parenting. Yes, you're the mother. Yes, you're the father, but these are human beings.
That's powerful. I love that. Very powerful message. All right, so here's the fun part of the interview. I love these next few questions, and I always get a mixed variety of answers, but they're fun questions, and I love it. And the first one is called the stadium question. There you are. You're in a stadium, and it's packed with thousands of people. All eyes are on you. And there's that person that's all the way up at the top. They're in the nosebleed section. How do you connect with that person all the way in the back of the stadium to make them feel that they're right there up on the stage with you? How do you transform that person way back in the back?
I connect with the nosebleed person within myself
Mm.
and I speak to that, and no one is left behind because I go into any speaking with the intention that I'm going to reach that nosebleed. Because when you reach the nosebleed, you reach everybody because we've all been in that space of having a nosebleed.
I love it. I 100% love that. And, you know,
Bring them in, bring
it,
them
it
in.
it's like inclusion. So that's a powerful word right there is inclusion. And when someone feel like they're included or they belong, that sends a deeper message right there. It's like, you know what? And oftentimes it's hard. It's really truly hard to reach that person back in the back. And I remember here's one of the most powerful ways that I've seen that. And I always ask that question because I always get the mixed variety of answers. And one of the powerful ways that I saw that was a concert. Billy Joel. All right, Billy Joel purposely at his concerts leaves the front row unsold tickets. And what he does is he gets to the show and he pulls the people in the back of the show and brings them up to the front.
Mm,
And
powerful.
and
I like
they
that.
and they are at the front of his concert because he connects with them on a more meaningful level. Because I believe that so many people take for granted all the things that can happen to them, for them, because whatever label you want to put on that. But when you're able to take someone and just unexpectedly bring them to the front and make them feel like they belong or they're included, man, that's powerful right there.
And you've done that for me.
Thank you.
Being on Clubhouse, and every time I come on Clubhouse, you bring me on that stage. Just know this: you have made me feel a part of the personal development world because I'm
Thank you.
new. I'm new to the stage. I'm new to the personal development industry, and for the last year, I've been trying to find my place. And little bit by little bit, light is coming. The light is being shown to me by you interviewing me, by you bringing me up on the stage. That is how you reach people, for those who would never thought, not me.
I love it. Thank you very much. It truly is positive feedback, and I gratefully appreciate that. Now here's a really interesting question right here. Most embarrassing moment. As entrepreneurs, as people, we sometimes get so focused on the things that we're doing that little mistakes They happen. I've definitely had my 15-pound mouth override my 5-pound behind on multiple occasions. Matter of fact, I made a mistake today on Clubhouse. You know, I had a hot mic and didn't realize I was reacting on a mic, and it was quite embarrassing. But you know, it was one of those things that, you know, mistakes tend to happen. What's the most embarrassing thing that has happened to you, and how did
Oh
you
my,
react to that?
oh my gosh. I've had moments where I've spoke beyond my means,
Mm,
having a great desire to do something, but not having the resources to do it, and having to deliver on my word and make it happen. And just feeling that sense of embarrassment, that sense of why did I do that? Why did I say that? Because I had to go and I had to really catch my own words, you know? So that has been a few times in my coaching of wanting to do something big and serve other people. I spoke beyond my means.
mm.
So learning lesson.
And it's playing a bigger game. I get that. Well, believe me, I've played a gigantic game on some occasions, and it's
Mhm.
one of those things that and here's something that I struggle with. So I actually had somebody that says, you know, I under promise and over deliver, and I was like, do you really? Do you
Mm,
really under promise and over deliver? So I have to question that sometimes, but sometimes when you over promise and under deliver, that
mm.
can be kind of embarrassing a little bit right there.
Mhm.
And I know myself, I play a big game. So have you ever
Yes,
found yourself just tremendously playing too big of a game?
absolutely. I'm a big thinker,
Mm,
and I have to sometimes catch up with my thoughts, right?
mm,
And I find myself working to catch up with my own creates,
mhm,
because I just do. I love servicing people. I love seeing people smile. I love seeing people transform. I love seeing people discover something they've never discovered. I love taking people and doing things that I always desired that I wanted to do, but I know that it's possible, because if you can see it, believe it, touch it, you can have it. So you know what I mean? So I play these games. Like now I'm taking some people to Egypt. I've never been to Egypt, but here we go. Right. So it's like, yes, I do. I think very big. I dream big, you know, and I try to bring people up into a dream that maybe they couldn't even envision for themselves. But I
mhm.
have enough vision for you because of this. Where there's no vision, the people shall perish.
Mm. I love that. And it reminds me of a quote. I'm going to paraphrase because I don't quite remember the exact phrase, but it goes along the lines of having sight without vision is a tragedy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A
Mm-hmm.
person with sight but no vision is an absolute tragedy.
Yes.
And I believe that there's a lot of people out there that tend to play small because they just don't have the courage, or they don't have the confidence, the knowledge, the skills, the experience, whatever label that you want to put on it that might be holding people back. Do you ever find anything that's holding you back?
Yes. Um, it's definitely not vision. Is what I sometimes feel is a lack of uh resource, knowing how to get there. Like I have the vision, I know what I desire, but now I got to find the route to get there.
Mm,
And running into those roadblocks, or running into, okay, I really don't know how to do this. Finding the right people that can get in alignment with the vision,
mhm.
you know, to bring about a better and greater change. So that has definitely been some of my trials and tribulations in being a leader. You know, is like the finding the know-how, how to connect the dots to
Mhm.
obtain the vision.
I love it. And I wrote about that within one of my books where I talked about the 5 rights. And I always tell people, I was like, look, if you want to achieve success within anything that you do within life, you must adhere to the 5 rights. And that's be at the right place, at the right time, with the right information, the right resources, the right attitude, and the right action. If you adhere to the 5 rights, you will never be wrong. And I truly believe that. I truly believe whether it's in life or whether it's within business, whatever, if you adhere to those 5 rights, you will never be wrong. And what you talk about right there, first and foremost, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for the transparency right there, because there are people that are not willing to be vulnerable, willing to be transparent, willing to say, you know what, I don't have all that it takes. I don't have this. I do have these weaknesses. because so many people do focus on, playing that big game, playing that big role. No, I can't fail. I can't do this. And being vulnerable, I also believe, makes you strong
Mm-hmm.
when you can clearly identify that. Because when you can clearly identify the things that you're not so good at, you can work on those things. You can work on yourself. You can work on your mind. You can work on those and build those up into a strength.
And that took a while for me to get here, Terry, to get into this space,
Mhm.
because I was raised a particular type of way where it's this thing, right? What goes on in my house stays in my house. That
Mhm.
was a literal statement for me, which means I didn't know how to ask for help.
Mm.
I didn't know how to even be vulnerable with myself. I always had to keep it together because I was the oldest child. I had to help raise my brothers and sisters. They look at me like second mom. They come to me before they really go to my mom at times. So I didn't know how to say, I don't know what to do,
Mm.
because I was forced to do. I was put so much responsibility. So when I finally got to the place to say, I don't know what to, I was able to take a breath.
Mhm.
I was able to learn how to be me. And that was to be vulnerable in my weaknesses, but also be willing to learn and change the weaknesses. And it took a long time for me to be able to say, I don't know, and I need help, or could you show me the way? You know what I mean? Or I don't have it, or whatever, because it's like that old saying, fake it till you make it.
I love it.
But I had to position and shift.
I love it. And I grew up in the military, and it's one of those things that, as a military leader, being vulnerable is one of those things that I struggled with, because no matter what, there had to be a way. You were given a task or a mission to do something, and it had to get done. There was no, do you want to do this? You not want, it's like, no, you're going to do this no matter what.
Exactly.
And it was one of those things that, oh my goodness, no matter what, I have to figure this out. So I just wanted to say thank you very much. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your valuable knowledge, your experience, your wisdom. And this is really important right here, because I truly believe that each and every one of us, we have those knowledge, we have the skills, we have the experience. And if there was one really good golden nugget, that one thing that you believe that will either change someone's mind, change someone's life, transform that person, what would that one golden nugget be?
It would be treat yourself on how you want others to treat you. Love thyself. Because oftentimes we expect other people to treat us a way that we're not willing to treat ourselves.
Mhm.
Be kind to yourself.
I love that. The golden rule. The golden rule never fails.
It doesn't fail.
It really
But
does not.
we often say treat somebody else how we want to be treated, but you got to first treat yourself.
Mhm. I
How
love that.
do we treat ourselves?
I love that. Self-care is important. You must take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And so many people cheat themselves instead of treating
Yeah.
themselves. And that's one of
Yes.
the things that I always tell everybody. I was like, don't cheat yourself, treat yourself. And when you treat yourself, you can treat others, because when you give yourself the best that life has to offer, and there's a lot of great things that are out there, you can give back the best that you have to offer to other people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we close out, I thank you, and I'll say this as it relates to the family. Strong families make strong communities.
Hmm.
So let's go and build the family.
I love it. Nayyirah, thank you very much for joining me here today. So tell me, what are some current projects that you're working on? What are some things that you have going on within your life, within your business, and how can people connect with more from you?
Well, absolutely. Right now, I am doing something. I'm conquering my fear. I've had a book buried in me for over 15 years. And what I decided to do is to write a collaborative book on the repair of the Black family. 33 powerful authors going to write a book, Repairing the Black Family, which is to repair humanity. And I'm very happy about that. And that is coming out on February 1st. February 1st is the release, and February 19th is the launch. We're doing that. I'm a retreat leader, so I'm taking a group of women to Egypt And if people want to connect with me, definitely my Instagram is sister_Nayyirah, Nayyirah. My website at www.repairoftheblackfamily.com. We definitely have transformational life coaching and speaking. I'm a speaker as well. In addition, I sell immunity products to help build the immune system. So that's what I have going on right now. It's just, taking one step at a time and helping one person at a time and one family.
I love it, Nayyirah. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I'll make sure that I have all of the links within the descriptions. This will be out on YouTube. It'll be out across all the major podcast platforms in audio and on video as well too. I just want to say thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for just sharing your valuable knowledge, your experience, your wisdom. Thank you for being vulnerable as well too, and showing that transparency. You are powerful. You are a very powerful woman, and I'm telling you, I'm rooting for you. I'm wishing you all of the best and continued success into the new year. As we approach the new year, you are unbreakable and you are changing lives every single day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. God bless.